Well, that's not, I mean, like...
Price.
We might be stealing that one. Thank you to that person who made that comment.
Yeah. Hello, property navigators. I am Luke.
And I'm Boyd.
And today we are navigating the world of good and bad advice on the internet.
Brought to us by Reddit and Facebook.
I've been trying not to read them at all.
Hit me with them. Hit me with the first question. Let's do it.
All right. How do I find a good investment property? I'm 22 and looking to buy my first investment property. I spoke to my broker and he said I can borrow up to $700,000. It's a bit of information overload looking at all the data and where to buy. I've got 3 dot points here. How do I find good properties with high yield? 2, what data sites are good to look at? And 3, where should I be buying? So number 1, how do I find a good property with high yield?
I mean, that's a pretty loaded question, Lee, but thankfully there's some experts online that have answered that question for us, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and they're in the comments, so let's get into it.
What's expert number 1 got to say about this?
Buy a property that is a single dwelling that has land approval for a duplex, and you can double your equity straight up and use that equity to buy another loan of a different broker to get another home as an investment and just slap and paste as you keep purchasing homes and raising your net worth.
Oh my God. All right. Okay. I mean, like, they're not wrong on, I guess, buying a good land component with a single dwelling, but that apparently you just have to buy properties that only have duplex potential.
A single dwelling that has land approval for a duplex, and instantly you double your equity straight up.
I mean, like, why wouldn't you just go for a duplex straight up? Why buy the single dwelling that has to have a duplex?
And I just love how it says just slap and paste as you keep purchasing homes. So then you use the equity from having it doubled because it has duplex approval, but you don't have to build the duplex. It says you just double your equity straight up.
You're just doubling it straight up.
And use that equity to buy another loan. So you buy another loan from a different broker to get another home as an investment.
So why do we have to change brokers now?
Oh man, you never know. You never know till you ask the question.
I mean, the broker's already done a good job to get them this.
I'm assuming that we can go to a different broker because this means if we don't tell them we have a loan, it doesn't limit our borrowing capacity.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh, Producer Awesome, that was really good.
Yeah, Producer Awesome just said you can hide your loans from other mortgage brokers, apparently, I think
as long as they're not in the same BNI.
Oh, God. But in all seriousness, the danger of taking that advice, right, is there's no diversification.
Well, plus it just won't work.
Yeah, for one, it just...
There's a concept there that needs some fleshing out.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's not a bad concept as such in terms of, like, you're looking for a property that may be like a single income dwelling that has future value add potential, like whether that be through a development or cosmetic renovation.
So if it has land approval for a duplex, you've got the right amount of land, council's on board, but you do then have to spend
the money to knock it down.
$2 million to do the duplex.
Do it. Whereas, like...
To then sell both at a profit, or I think they maybe just saying do it again.
But anyways, but I guess it also comes down to the diversification piece as well. It's just like, if you're just going to slap and paste and copy and paste and only do that, I think you'll get unstuck very, very quickly in terms of the whole idea of being able to buy a property, knock it down, rebuild new ones, and then you're factoring in just hoping that they grow in value in those locations every single time you do that, where it could be not the best way to do it.
All right, second expert online here. Don't max out your borrowing capacity. Just because a bank can lend you $700K doesn't mean you need to spend it all. I'd use a good mortgage broker and buyer's agent. You could buy 2 properties and start building future wealth.
That's a good statement. On the buyer's agent side, on the mortgage broker side, and on the possibility of not maxing out your budget if you really don't need to.
Yeah. Then someone's commented on that comment and said, I'd rather learn to buy property myself than spend it on a buyer's agent. Look, that's good advice. That's good advice that they kind of gave, very general, but very general. And then obviously someone would rather learn to buy property themselves than spend it on a buyer's agent. Well, fair enough. That's why I guess we teach all of our clients what they need to know to do it themselves when they do jump on board, so the second time they can.
Yeah, I think it's a fair enough assumption. It's just the key the key point to that is that do you essentially want to be working a second job? Like, to do what a buyer's agent does and the level of depth and everything that we go into, right, can't be duplicated that easily unless you can, especially think about if you're out of state, for example, you can't go buy in another state unless you want to be jumping on a plane every single weekend and going to do inspections, or really getting a good understanding about where the best opportunities are right across the country, right?
Just even learning how to do the data analysis and what data to look at, it's all just a huge learning curve. So unless you want to learn it all to have knowledge forever, it takes a long time to learn it all too.
That's right.
It's not just a slap 7-day or 4-week course.
Well, let's give an example, right? I think that's the best way to give an example. Say, like my ute. I love doing a bit of tinkering on my ute every now and then.
Yeah.
I can change the oil, I can do bits and pieces to it, right? I can do little bits and pieces. Can I rip the whole engine apart and remove it and then put it all back together? No, I cannot. I can do specific parts.
You could.
I could, but it'd take me a long time to learn,
Yeah.
right? And I can do specific parts, but I can't do it all together in a formulated manner, right? So, and this is what...
It'd be YouTube video after YouTube video just to figure out how to...
I would be YouTube videoing that out to the wazoo. But essentially that's what it comes down to, right? You either decide to go down that path yourself and learn every aspect of what you need to do to be able to pick the right property, which is a big task in itself in learning a whole new industry, or you outsource it. And again, if you're only doing bits and pieces of that part of that industry on a big investment of $500,000 or $500,000 plus, it's not the same as working on like my old ute or something like that, which is like 15 grand. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it is a completely different aspect. So if you're going to go out and only do bits and pieces and not do the whole job correctly, you're not going to get the best outcome. Whereas if you use a buyer's agent, we know how to do the research, we know how to do the analysis, we've got the relationships, and we've got that full formula already created, the profession ready to rock and roll to go out and represent the best for our clients. I guess the difference between like learning how to do it yourself and then going out to find a buyer's agent is then you'll get a good understanding about what to look for in a buyer's agent, I would say. If you've got a good grasp of like what data you're already looking at, you can then ask the right questions to make sure that that buyer's agent that you're using is actually going out and doing the right job and having a look at the data that you think is most important, for example. As opposed to some buyer's agents that we know, they use their anecdotal evidence, or they use their, that area is just growth, so that area is going to grow up there, and it can work, but a lot of the times it comes back down.
It's not data-driven analysis.
No, what it comes down to is that really the best option? Just going, well, this area has grown, and so this area is going to keep growing out here. Yeah, that can work, but what about different locations and other locations for that price bracket?
All right, so obviously this next online expert, is trying to get them to understand how to look at data and things like that. So this person said, find the property's annual rent and then divide by purchase price. Just use realestate.com or domain to do this.
What, to find out gross yield?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or you can go and get a yield calculator online as well.
But it is. There are so many calculators online, guys.
Just Google it.
Yeah.
Number 2, CoreLogic. If you don't have access, get CoreLogic data from free places. Anywhere that says they have any sort of data is just a copy paste from here. HTW, ABS, APRA. RBA also do some good things. Is APRA the Australian Performers' Rights Association?
No.
Okay.
So
okay.
What did you say? What did you say? Australian Performing.
Australia Performing Rights Association. So all of these are just copy and pasted from CoreLogic.
Well, that's not. I mean, like some of them pull data.
Well,
right,
ABS is its own data.
Yeah, Australian Bureau of Statistics does not pull. I mean, they might use some of that. Again, it doesn't really matter. But it comes back down to...
They're two independent bodies.
If you're using a free platform, right, you're taking the risk of, 1, the data being incorrect, or 2, the data being very old.
RBA. I'm saying that...
Can you stop just focusing on what the acronyms are, please?
No, the RBA doesn't rely on CoreLogic. The RBA.
No, the Reserve Bank of Australia. No, the Reserve, no, they don't.
I think that's hilarious. Like they're not even a government organisation, CoreLogic.
Yeah, well,
imagine a government organisation just relying on a source of data from a private enterprise. That could be wrong.
Yeah, well, that could.
Anyway,
that could become unstuck. But I would definitely say with that, yeah, no, that's not correct.
From a policy perspective, and that's where I kind of come from. I live there. That's wild.
So free sources can be unreliable, and 2, you're possibly looking at very very old data. Okay, so whereas like, you jump on CoreLogic or something like that, it's like it's up to date, whereas like these other sites may be 6 or so months behind.
Yeah. All right, number 3. Always buy in a location that is at the bottom of its cycle. The data says if a location has had significant growth in the last 10 years, it will have slow growth the preceding 10 years. The same as if a location has had little growth the last 10 years, it will boom the next 10 years.
Mm-hmm. Again, this comes down to...
This is general, but not wrong.
It's not wrong, but again, it just comes down to the point is if you're looking at one data point in isolation, you're going to become unstuck very, very quickly. Like again, you can't look at these things in just isolation, plain and simple. It is a very good starting point for anyone wanting to get an understanding about where growth may be occurring. But for example, like you look at Brisbane prior to 2000 and before COVID, right? Well, you don't have to beat that out.
I've had someone comment on these guys' comments, all right? Point 3 is really wrong. Dangerous advice there. That's why I stopped, because you were banging on about point 3. But then they also said it's not wrong. Look at RP data. And then the dude's gone, suburb growth is not a time equation. It's underlying fundamentals. Market cycles have different lengths depending on the city or region. There is no blanket formula such as a 10-year trend reversal.
Oh, a 10-year trend reversal.
I know.
We might be stealing that one. We'll take that. But again, like it comes back to it. Like they're not wrong. It is a good starting point to understand. But again, there's
at a very basic level.
Yeah, there's much bigger fundamentals at play than just having a look at historical growth. But it does play an important part. I'll definitely say that.
Oh yeah. Then someone says, ignore the fudsters. Buy where there's lots of owner-occupiers. Supply is the biggest killer of price. There's 2 different concepts, I think, in there. Buy where there's lots of owner-occupiers. Supply is the biggest killer of price.
I mean, they're not bad. They're just wrong in just making blanket statements on things. Like again, high owner-occupied areas are going to have good long-term potential, but maybe.
But you want to get there before there's lots of owner-occupiers.
Right.
Or else
you want to get
just buy at the wrong time.
Well, you're not buying at the wrong time, but it's just like...
Well, you're not maximising the potential that you can get in a property. If you're buying somewhere that 80%
Mate, do you want to start bloody posting on these?
You're buying somewhere that's already 80% occupiers. It's already hit. It's already there. That's what's driven prices up.
Yeah.
Is the owner occupier appeal. So you want to be getting them. There's lots of for sure. So you want to be somewhere and have bought where there is lots, but you want to have bought there well and truly before that point.
Yeah.
Right. And supplies
depending where you are. Again, if you're an astute investor and you're at the end of, or you might be buying a really high level.
Just be in general. Right? But like supply is the biggest killer of price.
I mean, I can't really disagree with that either. No. But again, economic things, economic environment also plays a role. But everything leads back into supply and demand at the end of the day. Every single thing we look at factors back into supply and demand. So 100% in terms of that comment, that supply does kill price.
Most of the sites I use are in the resource section of the group. When I'm looking at an area, I'll also download all the suburb data from the Valuer General's site and then use it to map the trends for the suburb and the street. Particularly if you have previous sales for the property you're looking at, I'll map those against the suburb trend. It's a good way to qualify what a good offer would be.
These are pretty good experts on these things. Again, I can't say anything against that because they are having a look at, I guess, what's happening on the street. That's a shit one. Keep going. These are big bloody responses, man.
That's a shit one.
Well, no, it's a shit one because it's kind of right.
The next one. You are basically word for word repeating what says, whilst he is pushing this agenda because literally his business model. I've done his course. The results of his clients are inferior to those who have access to private data sets and buyer's agents. Just put it this way. If you were to try and do this by yourself with no experience in buying a house without the knowledge and tricks of the trade that a BA has, if you were to underperform by even a single 1% point of annual growth, you would be out hundreds of thousands of dollars out of pocket in the long run.
Thank you to whoever put that comment up because you are backing us.
And it's somewhat true. That course does teach some basic fundamentals, but it's not the granular level of data science, really, that's kind of required.
It just comes down to, like, PK, like all these things. You can do a course, but unless you can apply the knowledge of it, it's useless.
Yeah.
Like unless you know how to constantly apply that knowledge, you're applying it for the first time. You had to go into a courtroom and just being like, I'm just going to have a crack at being a lawyer for the first time. I understand it. And just being like, you're jailed for the next 20 years, dickhead.
I mean, this is a much longer question. It keeps going and it keeps going, but I think that's enough to basically just wrap it up, because then they do go into a bit of analysis around, you know, even 1% and go into what that costs you over 10, 20 years.
But it's true.
Like, it's so true.
It's true.
Look at the example they've used, which will go on screen. 500k house at 8% growth per annum in 20 years is 2.436 million, and the same at 7% is just over 2 million in 20 years. So
you're talking
that's
about
$500,000 you're talking about almost there.
Yeah, at least 400,000. Then that's, again, just using one example. You replicate that over 5.
In a portfolio. Yeah. Some serious coin you're missing out on.
Well, it's some serious coin.
If that was replicated 5 times, there's 2 million, 2.5 million you're missing out on.
Well, it's $2 million. I mean, like, think about that.
That's not much, man.
Nah. Chump change. Chump change. And we've got to remember, right, that growth in the early stages as well, you miss out on that. It stops you in your tracks in terms of being able to recycle equity and buy other properties. It's just being able to assess whether you want to do it yourself and take that risk, or you want to invest your money into a professional that's going to get you better results.
Awesome.
And that is a bang on answer, because I mean, this guy's gone on and on and on, but the person that actually wrote the post said when you put it in that perspective, it definitely changes.
And I said, even before we read all this, that thank you to that person who made that comment.
Yeah.
Remember, that's an example of 1%, right? We're looking to achieve well beyond that as a buyer's agent in terms of what the average person can get in terms of the average, you know, growth rate of 5%, where we're looking to get anywhere upwards of that into double-digit growth in the first 12 to 36 months of an investment. You know what I mean? Per annum.
So we're not just talking 1%.
We're not talking 1%. We're talking a lot more with that, and that's just, again, just highlighting a simple 1%, where it's not normally the case. And should we tell them that we do also offer Discovery Call, guys? Why it's awesome to read through all these questions that you have on Facebook and Reddit, save them, give us a call, get these questions answered by a guaranteed professional. We'll be more than happy to answer these questions, and probably in a lot more detail, guys. So.
And we give it 1 hour free consultation to anyone that wants it, so you can pick up the phone and we're not going to yell at you.